Welcome to the Unofficial Steelers Podcast, the podcast so unofficial it doesn't have a home. Here's your host, from In Hindsight, Nathan Heitz. From Steelers Nation Australia, Mark Davison. And from State of the Steelers, Daniel J. Here we go.
What is up, Steelers Nation? Welcome back to another episode of the Unofficial Steelers Podcast. Today, we're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers coming off of a bye. It's not how you start, it's how you finish, and this is the first step in finishing, for the rest of the year. I'm Daniel. Alongside with me is Nathan Hines. Nathan, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right, man. We're doing all right. Nice and cool out today. Starting to get more and more of that fall weather, which is great. But other than that, just working and just trying to stay busy sometimes, man. So good to be back on the show for the week.
Good to see you. Good to see you. So let's start off with some breaking news. First things first, Desmond King was released. That's been some news that was going on since the last couple of days. And replacing him, the Pittsburgh Steelers signed off with the Chiefs practice squad, Darius Rush. First and foremost, what are your thoughts on the loss of King? It's kind of unexpected. He really hasn't played much. I think he's had one defensive snap. What were your thoughts on King?
It was just a waste of time. It was a waste of time at the end of the day. I think it caught everybody kind of off guard that they released him like that. I thought when they brought him in that he was going to be able to bring a little bit of a different element to the secondary. What's up, guys? What's up? Yins Nation Sport. What's up? Jared Devil, Brian, Deja Vu, Gene, Afton. Good to see you guys. Hope you guys are doing well. But it was just disappointing that 5 games in the season and he only got one defensive snap. I think he's a much better player than that. But to play the other side of the field, maybe there were things that were going on that we didn't know about, that we didn't see going on behind the scenes in practice or things like that. Maybe he just wasn't catching on to what they were trying to do defensively. Maybe he didn't want to be there. I don't know. I don't really think there's really a solidified answer as to why they released him like they did. But it's disappointing. It's disappointing because I think he's a much better player than what the Steelers kind of gave him an opportunity for. I think he's shown that in his career. He's not like a make or break player, but he's somebody that I think when you look at his track record, what he's done, he's offered some good service to where he's played at. So it's disappointing. Darius Rush, I don't know much about. I know he was taken in the 5th round. There were some good things come out of college. Was drafted by the Colts. They released him, didn't make the cut, went to the Chiefs. So I don't know. I kind of take the move with a grain of salt just because, like, if they're not going to play Joey Porter, what makes you think they're going to play this guy right now?
Yeah, well, they didn't play King at all, except for one play defensively, and he's been on the team for about 5 weeks. Last year, even when the Steelers went and got out of Keela Weatherspoon, he was on the bench forever until there was an injury, and then he made his debut. The Steelers, and Coach Tomlin kind of said this earlier this week when in his press conference, that it doesn't matter. This is the way I took it. It doesn't matter how good you are or how good you're showing. It depends on the opportunity in the moment. And I don't think that's the right approach. I think that if you're seeing somebody performing or outperforming someone, whether it's, for instance, Dan Moore, we have Broderick Jones that's come in. In my opinion, he performed better. And in my opinion, Isaac Seumalo performed better with Daniel Jones, with Daniel Jones. I'm combining them with Broderick Jones.
Oh man.
There's going to be that should be the right tackle, Daniel Jones. Now,
yeah, might be better off.
Right. But, Broderick Jones, in my opinion, he made Isaac Seumalo better because he didn't have to compensate or overdo his work because of the lack of what Dan Moore brings. Now, I get, and everybody says, hey, Dan Moore didn't do bad enough to lose his job. But this isn't a business making people feel good. This is putting the best person out there and trying to put your team in the best position to win. Unless this team is tanking, this is their form of tanking, and we don't know about it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, talking about the left tackle thing, man. I saw yesterday morning just early stuff, them saying about Dan Moore having reps with the first team and stuff like that. And when I saw that, I just shook my head. I'm like, I don't, and I saw other people on the timeline going crazy about it. Nobody understands this team's mindset right now. I don't think nobody knows what they're trying to ultimately do. But I think anybody that watched their last game knew that Broderick Jones already played a better game than Dan Moore has all year long already. I don't think that it's really too much of a question as into who should start Sunday. You traded up a few spots to go take Broderick Jones at left tackle. And you're going to play somebody who is a 4th-round pick, who's in his 3rd year, who is one of the lowest graded offensive linemen in the league. I don't know what to tell you. It's what we all know is that the Steelers are just rinse and repeat, and they continue to do the same thing over and over and expect different results, and it's not working. So I think when it comes to it, it's honestly not even a debate. It's not even a question. They haven't come out and said anything. Right. Mark, what's up, man? Appreciate you tuning in. Yeah, like it hasn't been official yet or anything that Dan Moore is going to start, but I don't understand why there's this type of conflict amongst them as a team on who should start. It's not even close. Broderick Jones is your 1st-round pick. Broderick Jones already showed much more promise in one game than Dan Moore has shown. So I don't know what the holdup is, what the debate is, but everybody's going to flip crap if Dan Moore starts on Sunday.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, they are playing in Los Angeles. However, that's going to probably be a Steelers crowd out there, I would assume, right? I think Steelers Nation is going to be represented there. And we might actually hear, I know DK from DK Sports has said that he hasn't heard, anybody yelling out, fire Matt Canada on an away game. I was in Houston and it was almost started. I can tell you that. It almost happened in Houston. But I digress. If Dan Moore, lets up a sack right away or at any point, everybody, every Steeler fan is going to boo him. They're going to boo the decision to put him out there.
Yeah.
And, when you look at what Broderick Jones was able to do, like I said, he improved the team across the board, pass block, run block. I mean, Kenny had clean pocket. The only time that Kenny has gotten himself in trouble with Broderick Jones out there going to that direction is him putting himself in trouble.
Right.
And, I just don't get it. And then with JPJ, Austin's already come out and said he's not going to be starting this game. So, like, it's just so frustrating.
It's ass backwards, man.
It is. I mean, you have basically 2 first-round picks because 32 in a normal year is a first-round pick. So you have basically 2 first-round picks and a guy that you would have taken at 16 or 17, where the Steelers were originally, had, the left tackles all been off the board. I assume that's probably where they would have gone. So you were looking at this guy as a possible mid-first-round pick, and you want to put out an undrafted Levi Wallace who runs a 4.6 40 and a 34-year-old Pat Peterson out there instead. Yeah. And then to drop Desmond King and leave Chandon Sullivan out there, who's shown he's just a freaking liability, whether it's
easily
in the pass, run, everything. He hasn't done anything. I don't understand.
No.
I don't get it.
No. It's like, what's the point of, if you're working your ass off and you're better than the other man that you're going against, what's the freaking point then at that point? I mean, you might as well just pack it up and call it a day. Seriously. It's absolutely asinine, dude. I don't think anybody has an answer as to why the Steelers operate the way they do. But yet they going to keep Gunner on the roster who kills them every single week. Like, what the hell are you doing? I honestly wish it was baseball season again. That's how annoying it is. Like, it's getting to the point. Is Art Rooney going to be worse than the Pirates owner?
Well, do you think this is Art Rooney's call, as far as playing the rooks or the young players or players new to the team? Because I mean, last year, week 4, Kenny Pickett was in there, first round pick. I think he should have been there earlier, but he was there. George Pickens was playing quite a bit of snaps last year. He was a rookie. Year before that, you had, was it Najee and Pat Freiermuth? They played right away.
Yeah.
Both of those guys. So,
Yeah.
it's not like, it's not like they're a stranger to doing it. And what's confusing is it's not just either, what we're seeing as fans, but even, for instance, like PFF, and people can have their feelings and their thoughts about PFF, but for the most part, they're kind of on point. Maybe not who's the best or this or that, but if you're not very good, they're going to point it out. If you're a decent player, you're going to have a decent grade. So putting aside like who's the number 1 or number 3 or whatever the case may be, they're pretty close. And you have two young players, and Joey Porter Jr. and Broderick Jones, who are rookies, that outplayed the rest of the secondary for Joey Porter Jr. And Broderick Jones had a higher PFF grade than everybody else on the offensive line, and better than what Dan Moore has been able to give in the last 2 seasons. So I don't get it. I think to myself, maybe there's something in this team. They're just kind of saving everybody till let's see if they can pick themselves off the ground. And if they can't, maybe try to get a high pick. I don't get it. I never thought that I would say that or ever be in a position where I thought, could this be a way of just kind of getting a high pick next year by not playing these players that potentially could keep you in games? Because at the end of the day, I don't think that this is a team that's going to win a Super Bowl this year. I mean, things can change, things can happen. I mean, there was a year one time, Tom Brady, and that's a big difference between Tom Brady and the Patriots and Kenny Pickett and the Steelers right now.
Yeah.
But there was a time where everybody thought he fell off a cliff. The Patriots had a crappy record in the first 4 or 5 games, turned it around, ended up winning the Super Bowl. I'm not sure this team has that in them, but it's possible they can turn it around. They know what they have as an offensive coordinator. Even if they were to put these players in and they get to somewhere around 9-8, 10-9, somewhere around there, or 10-8, I'm sorry, 10-7. Damn, it's because they added a new freaking week. I'm still struggling with that.
Yeah,
but 10-7, and they end up in out of the playoffs in the first week, and now you're sitting at like 18-17 again for a draft pick that maybe perhaps they're going to try to pick up something a little bit that's going to need a little bit more value. What do you think?
Well, I don't think that they're a team at all that would like have a mindset of, all right, like sabotaging their season. I don't think that they're a team that operates that way at all. And I think we all can see that. It's just something that all you really can do is just kind of guess why that they are going about certain things the way that they are. I don't think we'll ever ultimately have an answer. I really don't. I don't know what they're really waiting for. I don't know why you don't play your young guys more and see what they can do right now. Especially when they're in there, they're producing. So I don't think anybody can really give a clear answer as to why that they're not getting full-time snaps. Joey Porter, Broderick Jones is a starter. I don't think anybody has an answer, but they're definitely not sabotaging their season. I think that's something that definitely is not the case at all. But I understand the point of winning 9 games, winning 10 games, either missing the playoffs or losing in the first round and just rinse and repeat cycle. I understand that. But I still think the team has talent, but I think the team's getting held back by a handful of things. And like I said, they're 3-2. Yes, they are, but it's a bad 3-2. They're not a good football team. They are not a good football team. And can that change? Yeah. Can they get better? Yeah. Like what Mark said too, they're getting some guys back. It's going to be good to see Deontay Johnson back. I think they've really missed him. You need to get Freiermuth involved in the passing game more when he comes back, because he's been pretty irrelevant since he's been in there. So you got to be able to execute in those kind of ways. But they're not a good football team right now. And coming out of the bye week, can they transition and get things better? Of course they can. I mean, any team can really at the end of the day. So it's one of those things you got to sit back and watch, but I don't think anybody has an answer. Jared L says, I get frustration though. This offense is tough. Yeah, no, it absolutely is, man. And that's the thing. Like, just people are just fed up with the status quo. That's really what it is. It's not about not supporting the team. It's not about not being happy they're 3-2, but it's just not good though, man. Like, they have too much. To me, they have talent where they should be better than what they are. And I think that they're held back a lot by personnel and by coaching. And it's honestly frustrating to watch. It's frustrating to watch an offense that can't give you 16 points a game scoring. It's frustrating to watch a secondary getting torched every week. So they're 3-2. Yeah, they are, but it's not a good 3-2. I don't care. You can say a win's a win. You can say 3-2. Yeah, you're not wrong. But what's it ultimately getting you? Because there's going to be times where the way that the Steelers have won these games, Cleveland example and Baltimore example, they should have lost the Baltimore game. They got lucky. That game should have been a blowout, number one. The Cleveland game, number two, they're lucky their defense played their balls off. So they really should honestly probably be 1-4 at the end of the day. So the thing is, they're 3-2 all they want, but how many times can you win games the rest of the way? If you're going to win games that way, how many wins can you ultimately get? It's very thin.
Yeah.
It's very thin. And that's the whole thing about it. So I love this team as much as the next person out there, but they're not a good football team, man. They're not. And other than their pass rush, what do they have going for them? Not much of anything.
Here's the thing, though. When it comes to them tanking, I don't think that's a Mike Tomlin thing, that he's going to, attempt to drop out or tank or, sabotage the season. But I think that there's some strings being pulled above him. Last season, when Kenny Pickett got put into the game, there was some rumors going into that game that everybody but Coach T was wanting Kenny Pickett in, this, that, and the third. And from what I've understood and what I've gathered from the situation was that, Kenny Pickett said that Coach T just came in, walked up to him and said, "You're in." And that was it. I felt like because there was no practice leading up to that game, there was no first team reps in practice for Kenny Pickett leading up to that game. He had a second pick or second quarterback reps the whole week. In my opinion, there was nothing leading up to that point that he was going to get changed. I think a call came from upstairs and said, "Hey, the fans here are quiet as a library out here. 60-some thousand people, and it's quiet like a library. Let's throw in the kid." And I think that's what they did. So I think in this moment, if the team is, maybe perhaps, sabotaging the season, maybe not so much doing that, but maybe perhaps doing let's see what happens in the next couple of games. In the next couple of games, if the offense can turn it around, then they'll start putting in some of these rookie, players. If not, then they're probably going to keep them out for a while. And so, but and the other reason why I also think it could be coming from Art is like, well, from what I heard, Matt Canada wasn't a Mike Tomlin decision to hire him. That was an Art Rooney decision to hire him. Matt Canada coming back this season wasn't a Mike Tomlin decision. That was an Art Rooney decision to bring him back this year. I think that there's more to that. I think there's a lot more control going in that direction than we think or know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's definitely possible. There's a lot of determining factors on stuff like that. Really all you can do is speculate, but it's just that there's just something that I just think that they need to just start adapting to the way that some other owners are adapting to the way the league's going. Like, look, I respect the Steelers franchise, man. I respect the loyalty. Like, I'm somebody that is all about commitment and loyalty, but when it runs its line and runs its course, I mean, you got to move on. You got to do what you got to do. You got to make the hard decisions. You're not here to change diapers. You're not here to make people feel better. Like, it's a business. There's a lot of money invested at the end of the day in this, and you have to do what you have to do. And I think that when we look at Steelers management, I think that they just haven't really quite done that. I love Omar Khan. I think that that's a great start there in terms of something fresh, a little bit of a new direction. But you got to do more than that. You got to be able to do more than that. And you can't just keep sticking in your own way, like just continually hiring guys from the inside and it doesn't work out. Like how many times have we seen personnel coaching changes from offensive line coaching to offensive play calling to defensive play calling, all from in-house, and everybody wants them fired every other year?
Well, that's because they don't pay him much. And what the hope is, and I don't think that's a Coach Tomlin thing either. I think that's a Rooney the second thing. Mm-hmm. Like, for instance, I don't remember what show I was watching or documentary or whatnot, but it referenced Mike Tomlin and him being offered the position as head coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he contacted, I guess, one of his other coaches, one of his mentors, and told him about it. And that mentor basically said, hey, or told him about the position that was offered and told him that the Steelers offered him very low amount of money. And what he told him was like, hey, they've only had 2 coaches since the 60s. There's stability there. You'll be able to, grow something there and be there. And so that's the reason why he took it. And he ended up, being a great coach. So I think what they're doing is they're hiring these guys that nobody else is hiring to be coordinators or anything. And, promising them they'll move up for low pay and in hopes that maybe perhaps they'll be seen somewhere else if they can turn, the offense around. Let's just say, Matt Canada, if you can turn this offense around, it's under Randy Fichtner. It sucks. I'm going to bring you in. You're going to have to be the quarterback coach, and then we'll promote you up. And then once you've, turned this offense around, you'll probably get head coaching job opportunities out there in the league. And I think that's what they're doing. But they're aiming for the low hanging fruit, with these guys that nobody else wants. Mm-hmm. And, I don't know, man, it's frustrating. It's, but if it's an Art Rooney the second thing, I don't know if it's ever going to change.
Yeah. Yeah. But they have to, though, man. Not everything stays the same, man. Everything changes, and you have to go with it. And I think that the lack of change has hurt the Steelers more than not. Let's see here. Let me go through some of the comments. I know, guys.
Oh, I'll also add.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ben Roethlisberger's last year was an art decision too. Apparently, Tomlin and Kevin Colbert wanted him out that year. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like I said, I think there's a lot more weight in that room than is being displayed. Like, and obviously, I mean, he's the owner, right? So he's going to have a lot of say. And if he wants his business to flourish, like for instance, they were around in the 80s when the Pittsburgh Steelers were mediocre at best, and they didn't have a guy. If Art Rooney is thinking to himself that we're going back into that direction, and that was a pretty crappy time, and maybe he's seeing the writing on the wall and like, hey, we might need to readjust here, and who knows? I don't know. Yeah. I mean, that's the only thing that I can think of as to why some of these decisions are being made, like keeping Matt Canada, running the same type of crap, not implementing, new players or young players, even after they've shown that they can do well. That's just kind of where I'm sitting at. I'm like, man, this just seems kind of suspicious. Yeah.
No, I hear you, man. I think people are just fed up with just kind of seeing the same old the last few years. I think a lot of the fan base is just fed up with a lot of stuff. And again, it comes down to that, not just us, but people in the media, people that cover the NFL, see it just like everybody else does, that there needs to be certain changes in this organization. And it's not in a way of, you need to make all these drastic things or anything, but you have to go with where the league's going. And that's just how it is. Like, you don't have to completely change your way of doing things. But I think it's the same issue with Bill Belichick. I think New England, I think it's the same problem. Bill Belichick wins a certain way. He beats to his drum a certain way. He's done a really bad job with player development. He's done a really bad job with player drafting over the last 5 years. But he's another guy as well that it seems like the way that the game has changed is passing him up a little bit, because he wants to win a certain way, and the Steelers do things a certain way, which is okay, but you have to be able to make some different decisions and change some things as time goes on. That's the way it goes. Everything changes. The league's completely different, man. You don't win games 13-10 anymore. You don't. It's just how it is. Quarterbacks are different. And dude, I was actually talking to my friend about this, and you guys can let me know in the chat if you agree. I feel like the NFL has kind of sucked the last few years. I think all around play around the league has kind of been crappy. I really do. I think other than a few teams that you have each year, it's been crappy play. I think that when you look at certain positions in the league compared to somewhere in the 2010s, even the 2000s, that it's not the talent isn't quite as there as what it used to be. I really don't.
I think that the practice is an issue too. We're not seeing teams play very well. We're not seeing good football. I think that in efforts to, for player safety, they have minimized the practicing. And I think that's allowing like these offenses to not get in rhythm, not be on the same page. But check this out, man. Mike Tomlin's record without Ben Roethlisberger is 22-22-1. I mean, you can't get any more
yeah, you can talk about
than that.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
22-22-1. I mean, I think that what does that say? That Tomlin's probably a better coach than Belichick, because Belichick without Brady is trash. I mean,
bad.
he was horrible. And not just before Brady. I mean, after Brady. I'm talking about before Brady. He was a coach at, with the Browns as well, and they didn't do very much. I mean, they had a good defense at the time, and I think more relevant than they have been, but they were still trash. And yeah, he's not a good coach. And I think that if you're wanting to be going and being a consistent contender every year, like the Steelers have been for a while, while Ben Roethlisberger was in his prime or able to work the field, you need a quarterback that can do that.
Yeah.
And I think I'm not going into Kenny or anything, but when you don't have the quarterback, it's just not going to work out. Like, for instance, Bill Belichick, he has this scheme, he has this. Josh McDaniels helped with some of that, and he's with Vegas, and their offense ain't great. So I think that the player, I do say that coaching does matter, but to have a franchise quarterback is super important if you want to be consistent. Now, with Kenny, can he turn into that? I think maybe. I mean, in order for Kenny Pickett to turn into a franchise quarterback, he needs to be able to read the defense better. He's not going to all of a sudden wake up tomorrow and throw the ball 70 yards. He's not going to, run as fast as Lamar Jackson. He's going to be an average type of player when it comes to the talent. Yeah. Brady was an average player when it came to talent, sub-average when it came to athleticism, and he was able to do great things. Why? He was able to read the field, and the game slowed down for him. Yeah, maybe the game slows down for Kenny and he can get there. I hope it is. I mean, what we saw in preseason were a little bit of flashes of what you expect out of a second-year quarterback. I mean, he was, although, and I understand the defenses were vanilla, but, he still read them and hit the player in the right spot, back shoulder pass in the middle, up the seam to Pat Freiermuth. I mean, when I saw that, I was like, man, this guy really turned a corner. Yeah. So we'll see. Maybe he can. I'm not, I'm not giving up on him yet. I think that the Steelers are going to give him this entire year. And if it doesn't work out, I think there might be a lot of turnover this offseason. And mainly with coaches, but I think there could be something, else going on.
Well, it's going to be an interesting topic of conversation once that time comes, depending how the rest of the year goes.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, man, of you can't, I'm all about time, like giving things time and stuff like that. But it's just a matter of how much time can you give stuff. And when you look at this team that applies to Canada, applies to the quarterback, applies to what you want to do at running back, applies to your secondary, stuff like that. And that's what I mean. Like this offseason, depending how the season finishes, will be crucial. And I think just at this point, they're definitely just going to roll with what they got. But if you got guys there that are outperforming who you got on the field, again, that comes down to what we started this conversation with. You got to start that because you drafted those guys to be a part of your future. Dan Moore's not your future. Levi Wallace isn't your future. Patrick Peterson's not your future. So some of those other guys that you drafted are.
Yeah.
So what's holding you back? Like, seriously. And I don't think anybody can give me truly a valid answer on it. So it's just the way it is.
Speaking of all this, though, you hear about the trade rumors with Najee Harris?
Yeah, I don't buy into that. I don't think anybody's really given me or has given a reputable source of that being something legit.
For those that don't know, he's been named in a couple of different not sources, but like media outlets. They've been naming Najee Harris as a trade candidate for the Detroit Lions because apparently they're going through some running back issues. And supposedly, I don't know how true this is, but a second round pick might be what they get back for him. Would you consider that?
I mean, maybe. I don't think that's something that's reality at all. I think that's just something somebody threw out there.
Yeah.
I don't see any way that they trade him at all. I don't think it's gonna happen. What, you're gonna have Jalen Warren, Anthony McFarland? You're gonna have Anthony McFarland? Really?
1-2 punch.
Give me a break. Give me a break. You're not trading them for better quarterbacks, Steelers fan. I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, no, it's dude, I don't know, man. Like there's just a lot of things that just isn't going right. And I will stand by it, man. Coaching matters. I don't care what anybody says. I think you can look around the league. You can look at guys that do well in different systems, that do well under different coaches than where they previously have been. You don't just go from a mediocre player to a really good player in 1 year. It doesn't work like that. Kevin Dotson is the highest rated guard in the NFL right now. Explain that one to me. Explain the Rams' offensive line that has been an absolute shambles because of retirement and because of draft pick capital traded, where their offensive line has been a lot more stout this year than what it was expected to be.
But here's the thing. When it comes to that, I was listening to Dotson's interview earlier this week, and what he was saying the difference was that Coach McVay will go up to him, give him an attaboy and pat him on the ass and say, you did a good job. You know, and Tomlin didn't do that. Tomlin was mean to him, basically. And, you know, he talked about all the things he did wrong. He never gave him an attaboy. And that some people, you know, work differently. The thing is, what Tomlin is doing by showing you where, even though you may have done well, where you are weak at, is to strengthen that player and also to create a sense of adversity. And that way, when it comes down to some really like weighty moments, then you know that player is not going to back down from the challenge, right? And Dotson was a guy apparently that needed to get, you know, have an attaboy, a pat on the back, and told that he's a good boy in order for him to perform. Yeah. And, you know, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you're wanting a nasty, you know, punishing offensive line, is that the mentality that you want?
think it's different for everybody, honestly. But again, that's coaching, though. That's coaching.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to, man. Players are like everybody else, and it depends on what they buy into. It depends on the type of environment that they're in with where they're at. And that's what I mean. Like, it comes down to coaching. You look at the Patriots. How many times have players come out of that organization saying that they hated playing there? Because all Bill Belichick cared about was their production and their results on the field.
Mm-hmm.
According to these guys from the past, that's all he cared about. When you have a coach that invests in you personally, when you have a coach, and I'm not saying Mike Tomlin doesn't do this. I know he does stuff like this from what other players have talked about. But when you have a coach who invests in you personally, that's a whole different ballgame. And that's why you either have players that just don't adapt to the league. You have players that thrive under different coaches. You have players that thrive in different systems. You have players that can probably fit in any type of system. But when you have a situation like that with Kevin Dotson, that's pure coaching. If he didn't have the connection with Mike Tomlin and Mike Tomlin didn't have the connection with him and didn't really have that type of level of investment, that's coaching within itself. Now, you can't have a perfect relationship with every player on your roster, but when you look at what Kevin Dotson's talking about, that's coaching. Sean McVay gets the best out of all of his guys.
And I agree. I mean, so does Mike Tomlin.
Yeah,
now,
and I think Mike Tomlin does a lot as well. I like Tom. I do.
We also got to
okay
realize
to say that stuff's passed him up a little bit, and I think we all would like to see him change things a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that that's not true, but this guy is also trying to, put his current coach on a pedestal while not trying to diminish what Tomlin did. Now, I'm not saying that Coach Tomlin walked into the building and was like, "You MFers suck and can't do anything." I don't think that was the case. I think what it was, containing the celebratory aspect of the game, containing the high emotions. Because I think at a certain time, and I think it happened to the Steelers, where they drink their own Kool-Aid and then they get their butts kicked, right? So you want to try to keep them, wanting more. You want them to be hungry, never get content. And so I think that there's that approach. And yeah, is there other approaches? Absolutely. But I don't think that Coach Tomlin was like one-on-one with Dotson every day. Like, I don't see that.
No, there's no way. Claudia, what's up, man? Appreciate you tuning in.
And so, I think it's more of an excuse. And, they asked him, why are you playing better here? He said that that was basically it. Their approach. Tomlin gets people going in a certain way. But I don't think Tomlin ever liked Dotson. I mean, he put him in a competition with Kendrick Green, and it really looked like he wanted Kendrick Green to win that battle. It just, Kendrick Green sucked. And again, he goes to Houston and looks like a freaking all-pro.
Hey, they get to see Akello Witherspoon on Sunday.
That's true. Man, every week.
Cornerbacks this year.
Yeah, every week we've been playing a former Steeler, and they've been outperforming.
Yep. So, yeah, it's just something really that you just kind of speculate about. Like, I don't really put stock in like really what, like, if you can't really have a definitive answer on something like this kind of stuff, like all you can do is it just comes to speculation, even with people who cover the team. That's all it is. Like stuff that you won't get an answer about, stuff that you'll never truly know about. That's really all it is in terms of thinking about what they're doing behind closed doors or wondering why they're not doing this, they're not doing that. We'll never know. We'll never know until they start doing stuff like that. So, yeah. Are things frustrating? Yeah, there is. But you know what? There's a lot of piss poor football around this league right now, man. I don't think the league's really that good. I really don't. I think the NFL has gone downhill the last few years in terms of just play. I really do. And I think there's just a lot of lack of talent in the league right now. I think there's definitely a lot of young talent. And maybe once some of that younger talent starts to flourish more, the league might kind of get better. But I think, yeah, it's not just the Steelers though, man. It's not just the Steelers that have been playing bad. It's other than outside a few teams. I think everybody's ass, to be honest.
Yeah.
I really do.
I mean,
I really do.
consistency has been a problem. I mean, the Bills probably should have lost. The 49ers lost to the Stains. And it was the Eagles. They lost to the Jets. Like any given Sunday,
Yeah. No, that's
it is what it
how
is,
man.
But looking forward to the next game.
Mm-hmm.
In your opinion, for the Pittsburgh Steelers to beat Los Angeles in Los Angeles, what needs to happen? What kind of, who needs to come up with a play? What kind of stat needs to happen? What are your thoughts?
Ooh, it's a good question, man. Well, they have two really good wide receivers, and I don't know how they're going to defend that. I really don't. I think probably the best thing when it comes to stuff like that, given that we don't really have a secondary, we don't really have a secondary that can cover not just one of them, but both of them. But I think like when it comes down to it, if you can get Stafford maybe a little shaken up, prone to maybe make a mistake here, a mistake there, maybe can help put your offense in a good position. That's definitely a key thing on that. But I think too, just red zone efficiency, man. I think efficient drives against this Rams defense, being able to get in the red zone a few times and be able to finish at the end of the day. Because once again, last year, the biggest problem with this offense was red zone efficiency. That was arguably the biggest struggle for them last year. And it's at a point where it is again. So I think to answer your question, for them to come out with a win, a good victory, stuff like that, we all can say, yeah, got to play better on offense, got to be able to move the ball. But really, get yourself in a good position offensively. Get yourself in a position where you have a couple good opportunities to get yourself inside the 20 and be able to produce, because that's what you have lacked so much last year, the year before that, and this year. Your red zone percentage has been god awful. So I really think for them to win the game, you are able to have productive drives on offense like we've only seen a couple times this year. Give me a couple, give me 2, 3. You want to at least have a few of those given this offense, right? That's based off what we know. And get yourself in a good position where, and it's hard to do this because of how stale the offense has been. It's hard to kind of, with the Steelers offense, it's hard to keep a defense on its toes. It really is.
Yeah.
But if you can get yourself inside the 20, and no rushing touchdown so far either. That's crazy. I think the Vikings are the only team as well that don't have one. But put yourself in a position where you're able to have a couple shots inside their 20. You're not there. The Steelers are going to go 3 and out a handful of times. We know this. The Steelers are going to have piss poor drives on offense on Sunday. We know this. This is a given. This is how it's going to be the rest of the year. But in those times where you have something going on offense, don't freaking shoot yourself in the foot. Because we see that. Poor play calling, being called at awful times, bad decision making. You have to take advantage of what you have going for yourself on offense, because it's very limited. Those chances are very limited for your offense right now.
Right.
So for them to win this game is that for the 2 or 3 times that they have something going on offense, you take advantage of it and you punch it in. That's my freaking, that's mine right there. Defensively, I think we're all scared of Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua freaking going crazy. Get Stafford a little shaken up, get him a little rattled, get him on his back a couple times. You might be able to kind of keep yourself going or something like that. But Deontay Johnson, Freiermuth does help as well. It's good to have them back.
Yeah.
So to me, those are really, if I can be as basic as possible, that's going to be my answer.
Gotcha. I have a much more basic answer. Well, first I want to talk about the receivers for the Rams. I think that this is actually a good matchup for the Pittsburgh Steelers because those receivers aren't burners. They aren't speed guys. They're not, 4.3, 4.40, 440 flat. 40 guys. They're a little bit on the slower end. And, I think that could play to the advantage of the Steelers that they're slower. But for me, I think it's pretty simple. 125 yards rushing offensively for the Pittsburgh Steelers and win the turnover battle. And I think you'll win this game. I think if you can just do those things and just maintain possession of the ball, this team here, if they did some play action passes as well, a little bit more, I think they would be a little bit more effective. I know there's a question is, are they not doing it because, the offense don't want to do it or the coordinator don't want to do it? Or is it because the team isn't successful at it? I don't know. I know during the games, it appears that they're successful when they implement it. I would like to see some more of those type of plays, some more play action. And I think that a rushing touchdown would definitely help. Control the ball, control the time of possession. Don't get your defense too tired, things like that. Run the ball. I think you'll be all right.
It's basic stuff, man. It's basic stuff. And it's hard to win in the NFL. It really is. And the Steelers just don't have a team, man, that if the Rams start to kind of get up on them, they don't have a team to be able to kind of get them back into course right away. So you don't want the Rams to get on you early. You want to be able to keep it contained. But yeah, they need to run the ball more. That we all know that. And don't have Kenny throw it over 30 times, because when he throws over 30 times, it's not good, and we don't win. So find identity, find a healthy balance on offense, run the ball, man. Get yourself, like I said, those few opportunities that you have something going on offense, you really got to take advantage of it, because it's hard. What we've seen from this offense this year, and even the last 2 years, whenever they've had those opportunities, it's hard to get those back, because they're just not an offense set up for that. Like they're not just going to come in and just create their opportunities the way other offenses in this league are going to do. So the minimal amount that you get, you have to cash in. If you don't, it's going to be a tough time. It really is. It's going to be a tough time. Yeah. So I don't know, man. Let's see here. Yeah, Mark says run the rock. Yeah, absolutely, man. Run the rock. Got to get something going on that. Yeah, Mr. Malvo, the thing is, man, all due respect, last year they were in a situation of a rookie type situation, and the offense was not good, and I don't think anybody should have had expectations of it getting much better this year. So I don't really know how the tables turned at all. It's not that's how the offense has been the last 3 years. So it doesn't matter who's been in there. They haven't been able to score points. They haven't been able to create opportunities for themselves. So
I want to answer this too right here. Puka ran a 4.57 in the 40, and Kupp is a 4.62. So I don't think they're very fast, my man. Like that's just they're not. They're fast.
Great route runners. They're great route runners, man. They got great
open.
hands. They're great in space. They really are. They're great in open space. But I think all due respect, what Daniel meant was like they're not like they're not high
a 4.3 guy. Yeah, you're not playing
burners that are gonna get. I think that's what he meant, man. I think that's what he meant. But dude, they're Malvo. They're great wide receivers, and they scare me. In terms of the way that this secondary is played, they scare me being able to get in open space like that. Yeah, Steelers freak. They get great separation. They do. They can run their routes, man. They know they're and you got to give credit Sean McVay. Sean McVay schemes his offense really well. He's a great offensive mind, and that's what scares me for this defense. That's why I said, like, being able to get to Stafford, especially with our secondary, that's huge. That will help a little bit, but at least one of them are gonna eat us. At least one of them are going to eat us alive.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past.
It's kind of pick your poison, man.
I wouldn't pass any team of having a receiver that could that could
Yeah.
eat us alive. But I want to go into one more segment before we call it a show. It's going to be our over and under for the next game, and then our predictions. So first one's going to be Kenny Pickett, 240 yards passing, over or under for you.
It's a good question. Good question. I feel like that's usually like where his stat line, or not his stat line. Like I usually feel like when you look at official numbers like that, I feel like it's usually around that 220, 240 area.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say under. I'm gonna say under, and I hope that they can start running the ball.
You know, I for some reason, call it just, hope or whatever. Maybe it's my black and gold goggles. I feel like they're gonna play better. I'm not saying they're gonna be off the charts, but I can see Kenny having a 260-yard game here. It's inside, I believe, and the weather's controlled, the whole 9 yards. So I think he's actually going to have himself a pretty decent game. I mean, the game that he had against the Raiders.
Hope so. It's indoors too.
Yeah, the game against the Raiders was indoors, so those things. So I'm actually going with over. I'm thinking he's going to hit around the 260 range. What about Kenny Pickett getting sacked? The line is at 1.5. Dan Moore starting.
Good question, man. Good question. They got a couple guys that can get to you there. I'll go over, but I don't think like he's going to get sacked a ton. I'll say maybe like 2 to 3.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at as well. I think that Kenny's been good for running out of the pocket and putting himself in trouble at least once or twice a game.
Yeah.
So, I think that's going to be the case here. More rushing yards. Yeah. This is an either or. More rushing yards, Najee Harris or Jaylen Warren this game?
It's a good question. Well, it seems like they've kind of been getting more split carries as of late. There's been more of a balance. I don't really know how good the Rams have been too much against running backs this year. I'll say I'll stick with Najee. I'll say Najee gets a little bit more. Jaylen Warren, definitely more receiving yards. He's one of the more higher receiving backs in the league. And if they can utilize him a little bit in a way that they did the other week in terms of when they got him out there in open space, I think that would be good. Get him out there as a receiver, man.
Good deal. I'm going to go with, I think Jaylen Warren might actually get more yards this time. I think that Jaylen has a higher yards per rush attempt. And I think as the work gets more equal, I think that's going to equate for Jaylen Warren having a higher output than Najee Harris. So I'm going to say Jaylen Warren outrushes Najee.
All right. Hey, either way, man, just run the ball, man. Find some. I don't care who has more yards. I like them both. I do. I'd like to even see a 2 running back set at some point. I don't think they'll ever do that. But
they did last week.
I can't even remember. That's how limited they do it.
They did it on the first drive. I want to say it was like maybe the second play on second down. They had Najee in the backfield, and Jaylen Warren was the guy going back and forth in motion. I think they may have even handed it off to Jaylen Warren. Could be wrong. It's been a while since I saw that game.
Well, freaking do it, man, because you've done it barely. I can't even remember.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So I'm wrong. Apparently, Harris is at 3.9 and Warren is at 3.6.
Interesting. Good stat, Mark. Appreciate you pulling it up, man.
Way to come in clutch.
Yeah.
What about Deontay Johnson touchdowns? It appears that he's going to be coming back for this game.
Come on, DJ.
I have him on my fantasy team.
You've activated him.
I've activated him. He's my man. I've had a rough time with this fantasy stuff. But he's coming back. 0.5. You think he's going to get a TD or not?
I'm gonna say no. Sadly,
Ooh.
I'm gonna say no. I think he'll have some good catches. I think he'll get a little bit of yards, but I'm gonna say no. This is not the week for Deontay Johnson touchdown. Sadly,
I'm gonna say yes.
I hope he does. I hope he does. It's crazy.
One. Yeah, I think that the pressure is off of him. Going into this season, everybody was talking about how he didn't get a touchdown last year. Now, when it comes to the receiving core, we're just looking for somebody to step up outside of George Pickens. Calvin Austin had one big play, but in a game against the Raiders, but outside of that game, he's been a little quiet, and he is not the route runner that Deontay Johnson is.
No,
so I'm looking forward to him getting out there. I think that a lot of the playbook was taken out because of Deontay Johnson not being there. And from what I heard too, is a lot of the playbook was taken out because Anthony McFarland wasn't there. I think that they were going to utilize him and his speed, probably in like some jet sweep type of plays, but they were going to utilize him a little bit more. He's coming back too, so no excuse. This team is actually getting very healthy. Right?
Maybe they might use McFarland as a returner now.
He did well. He did well when he was doing
back there again since he's back. So you can use the speed. It's just a matter of if he can find some space to use it.
Yeah.
25th against the run. Bad news. Steelers D's 29th. Yeah. And the other good thing, Steeler Freak, I'll tell you, is that Kyron Williams is not going to play this game. The Rams are sending running back this game. So it's either going to be Royce Freeman or Zach Evans against the Steelers. So we'll see if Sean McVay is able to draw something up for those guys, or if the Steelers are going to be able to contain it.
There's been other rumors that Najee Harris doesn't come back on the plane and stays in Los Angeles because of the running back situation.
That's his hometown too. So
yeah, I don't think he'd mind it. Defensive sacks on Stafford. The line is at 2.5.
No, it's a lot. I'm gonna go under.
You going under?
You got to give credit to the Rams line, man.
Oh no, man. These edge guys have been freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And I think they get to him. He's more of a statue than many of the other quarterbacks that they've played this year.
Yep.
So
collapse that pocket, man. Collapse the freaking pocket.
So I think they can get to him. I think they get 3. I think TJ gets 2. He's been on
I hope so.
He's been on a grind.
Yeah, Mark. Kyron Williams is out. The other 2 guys I named are their backup running backs. They're going to play.
Defensive turnovers. Steelers getting the ball, whether it's a Matt Stafford interception or a fumble. The line is at 1.5.
It's good. I'm going to go over, man. I'm going to say if that even though I said under 2.5 sacks, I think that they're really going to try to get that pocket crammed up. And I think that there's a couple mistakes, man. We've seen it from Stafford before. Even in Detroit, we've seen it before. He is prone to mistakes. He's prone to interceptions. He's prone to fumbles. So if you're able to kind of get him outside the pocket a little bit, keep him away from not giving him too much time to just sit there and watch a movie and eat a thing of popcorn. Don't let that happen. Don't let that happen. I think you might see some stuff.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm going to go under. I think they get 1. I think the Rams. Well, I mean, maybe there's a good chance. I don't know if Stafford really protects the ball that well. I think he'll put it up there in harm's way at least once or twice and allow somebody to take it out of the air. He's not super, super protective of the ball. So,
no, dude. He's definitely prone to mistakes, man. For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I might actually be changing.
He's thrown a lot of interceptions. Yeah.
I'm actually changing this to over. I think that they do end up getting at least 2. So, final thing, score prediction and winner. Who do you think's winning and what's the score?
There we go. I don't think this is going to be a bad game by any means. I think this is going to end up being one of the better games out of all the slates. Najee's from North Cal, South Cal. Yeah, I don't know anything about that, Jared Devil, so I take your word for it, man. I'm going to pick the Rams to win this game in a close one. I know Mark gave a stat about Mike Tomlin's games coming out of a bye week. I'm going to pick the Rams in this one. I'm going to go 20-16.
We're close, my man. We're close. I'm actually picking the Steelers to win this game. I like the dome. I like the indoor matchup for Kenny Pickett. I like the guys that are coming back
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of film on him. Deontay Johnson was out halfway through the 49ers game. So how they utilize him this year is going to be a surprise, for the Rams if there's anything that's, different than what's been out there last year. Pat Freiermuth, him coming back could be an improvement, but
yeah, draw him up, man. Draw him up. Get him like four to five targets. Draw something up for him.
Exactly. That's the problem. Like, are they going to,
yeah,
target him? But
right.
him coming back should be an improvement. I have the Steelers winning 20-17.
Okay.
Fairly close to what you have.
Very close. Very close.
I think the Steelers.
I hope I'm wrong, guys. I hope you guys are right and I'm wrong.
Yeah. Let's see what some of the guys are saying. Steelers by 3. Steelers Nation Australia 23-21 Steelers. 14-3 after the bye.
Let us know in the chat, guys, your guys' predictions.
Yeah. For a second there, I thought he meant that's the Steelers' record after the bye this year is going to be 14-3. I was like, I don't think there's that many games.
That would be, yeah. No, it would be, it'd be something if they'd be able to come out strong after having an extra week to prepare for this game, and getting some guys back healthy. So that's what's good going for them. It's just a matter of how much trust do we ultimately have in them being able to execute, Yeah. So Brian says 12-8 Steelers.
It could be.
Mr. Malvo says I'm in LA County. That's way different from NorCal. WA and so okay. All right. So again,
Rams 35-13.
Yeah. Rams 35-13. Wow. Okay. Damn. So Malvo thinks it's going to be an absolute blowout.
Jared Devil goes 24-14
Rams. Okay. Kind of on the same page there. You two. It's going to be a low scoring game. Yeah. I think it might be a little more low scoring than maybe some people think. 9-6 Boswell. Oh man.
James comes in with what matters. All I care about is a win.
Yeah, and that's it at the end of the day. Even Mark was saying, when a win's a win, absolutely it is. I think we just want to see better play. We don't want to see them having to win games where the other team messes up where we win games, if that makes sense. Yeah. That's what I want to see. I want to see us win games in ways of where we won the game, not where the other team won us the game for us. So that's what I want to see more of.
So I'm going to ask you one last question before we let everybody go. Yeah. And going into week 1, I asked you this question. I said, how are you going to react if the Steelers go into the first drive and get a 3-and-out after the preseason they had? Do you think they're going to be deflated? And sure as hell, that happened and worse. So I'm going the other way this time in hopes that maybe the karma will work back.
Opening drive tutty?
Not just that, but what would you say, or do you think that people would be optimistic after this game if this was a breakout game? Let's just say Kenny Pickett ends up getting, 3 touchdowns, open drive touchdown.
Just a big breakout game for everybody.
Breakout game that we've been waiting for.
Yeah.
Do you think that the fans are going to be like, all right, this is who we are. We're going to go to the Super Bowl? Or do you think
it's back on, man?
Or do you think that people are going to be cautiously optimistic, be like, whoa?
Yeah, I think it's more that. I think like it would be a great thing to it'd be a thing that you feel good about for the week, right? And it'd be something that's exciting because we haven't really seen our offense in a really long time really kind of have a breakout game like that. But it would definitely have to be take it with a very slight grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I would approach it. Like if that happened, like, of course, myself and all of us, you would feel good about it. You'd feel good about the week and everything, but it's like, okay, we're going to stay humble. This is the only time they did this. So, but if there's maybe some, like, it kind of be something like, okay, maybe like if there's just certain games where you can maybe put a little bit of this together each game, then we'll take it. But it would feel good nonetheless. But yeah, you got to stay humble about it.
Yeah. Not Mark. I think he said he's going to jump through a table the first 300 yards.
Mark, I'm still waiting for you to buy that table, man. I'm still waiting for that. James Fetcho says I'd be hype. Yeah, man. I think everybody would be pretty hype about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would be extremely hype. I think so. I in the past, just to be like honest. In the past, like for instance, the year we went 11-0, I went. No, you know what? It wasn't. Was it that year? Yeah, I think it was that year. No, it wasn't that year. It was the year that we were going pretty bad. We ended up playing Denver and then Seattle, and we ended up getting at 500 after that. I want to say it was last year or the year before that.
Denver,
well, anyways,
Seattle,
yeah, we had the Denver. It was 2 back-to-back home games. I want to say it was the year before last, and I went to those games, and where was I going with this? I was trying to figure out the damn year so much. I forgot what I was going with it. What did I say before?
You said that you thought it was 2 years ago.
Right. So I got super hyped when, the Steelers end up scoring a touchdown at the end of the game and end up pulling the game off. And up to that point, Ben hadn't looked so great. That play happens and everything goes down. And I'm like, I came out on Behind the Steel Curtain, which is now Steel Curtain Network, but this is the first time I actually made my appearance on Steel Curtain Network. And because Dave Schofield was in the same section as me, and we went to the same game, and he went live afterwards, and I was like, man, Ben was on point. The offense finally turned it. This team's going to the playoffs. Like all this stupid crap that didn't happen.
Yep.
the next week, it was freaking another
Wishful
game that
thinking,
was kind of
man.
tough. Yeah.
That's what I mean. You got to stay humble about it.
Yeah. You were the first Steelers podcast that said Kenny might not be that guy, and people were trying. That is true. That is true. Last season,
Daniel did get crucified a little bit.
I did. And, to the point where I was like, maybe I'm wrong. And I'm not saying that I'm right and Kenny's not that guy, but go look at Tim Tebow's stats and go look at Kenny Pickett's stats after 17 games, and you'll be concerned.
Yeah, no, there's definitely reason to be concerned about it, man. It's just something you got to let it play out. Like this
will be the last thing I'll say is Tim Tebow had something called Tim Tebow time because he could only come back in the fourth quarter. Couldn't do anything for 3 quarters, but in the fourth quarter, they somehow managed to get enough points to win. I see a little now. The only difference is I think Kenny Pickett is significantly more accurate than Tim Tebow is, but I think that Tim Tebow was the guy that had the it factor that can win games at the end, right? And doesn't get tight, as Coach Tomlin says.
Yeah.
And Kenny Pickett has that, same trait, right? He can come back. The thing is, we got to see him do it for 3 quarters before that, for the entire game, 4 quarters of football, get it going. If he can do that, and he can do that consistently, I definitely think that he's accurate enough to be a quality quarterback in the game. I think that he needs to work on some things still. I don't like his throwing motion. His release is slow. Like it reminds me of it's not as a big windup as Byron Leftwich, but he takes a minute to let it go. And I think that could be also an issue as well.
I think what I want to see is stuff that you've touched on, just being able to read defenses better, and not put himself in bad positions that he does to himself.
Yeah.
I think that's what I want to see a lot more of.
I think just fixing his pocket presence and not running into problems would make him significantly better, right? Yeah. And, the thing is, can he do that? And I don't know, because, I went and looked back at his play at Pitt. He left clean pockets there. His snap to pass, I think, was like 3.7 seconds average. That's freaking horrible. And, his ability was crazy. Getting out of the pocket and making something happen, and which is going to take some time. So those 3 things have transitioned from college to the first year in the pros to the second year in the pros. Now, how much time are we going to give him before we say that's who he is?
Well, that's it. That's what it is. It's one thing about patience. It's just another thing of how long will the Steelers go for it. Fetcho, I agree. I would like to see, depending how the rest of this year goes, Kenny maybe with a new offensive system and give it a shot. And if not, you move on. He's on a rookie contract, so you can move on. It's not something that's going to bite you in the ass or anything. I think that's fair.
I think it depends. I think if you're in the top 10, you have to consider that, because you have to consider getting a quarterback.
Yeah, it's worth a conversation, but they're not going to be in the top 10 though. Like, let's be real. Like, they're not going to be.
No, I don't think they will be. The schedule.
They're going to be between 15 and like 23 if they make the playoffs.
Yeah, because the schedule's not that strong, and this team is getting healthier. They're not going to be top 10. You're absolutely right.
But like, if that's like what you're talking about, hypothetically, it's worth a conversation. Absolutely, it is.
Yeah.
But just in terms of how we know how the Steelers operate, and they want to be in it every year and stuff like that, which I do appreciate as a fan. I do. It's just how realistic is that, right?
Yeah. No, you're right. I don't think this team's going to play horribly, especially with the strength of the schedule that they have going the rest of the season. Yeah, I can easily see this team winning double-digit wins this year still, and getting to 10. I think that they can win every game. I think they can also lose every game going down the rest of the way.
Yeah.
So, we got to see some more coming out of this team.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, that'll be a conversation.
They've only played 5 games too, so it'll be fun to watch. It's going to be frustrating too, but
yeah, that'll be a conversation that we're going to put off until probably around week 13 or 15. Because I think at that point we're going to know for sure where we're at, and not just where we're at, but like realistically, if this team's going to be, how much better they have gotten or not.
Yeah. And I hope it's similar, guys, to what we saw at the end of the bye week last year, of just where there was just better play. There was more balance. There was some consistency on offense. It still wasn't where it needed to be, of course, and it's not going to be again this year. But, I think at this point, with what we've seen, anybody would take it, right?
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, I'm not giving hope or giving up on this team or the season.
Oh, no, absolutely not. They've played 5 games, man. It hasn't really been that good football, but it's only been 5 games, which is crazy to think, honestly. I feel like it's been longer.
And they're only half a game out of first place in the North.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, they take care of business this weekend. I don't know when the Ravens bye is, but
the Ravens got the Lions this weekend.
Oh yeah.
So
maybe we should send Najee like right now.
Yep. So they got the Lions this weekend. Browns have the Colts, but Watson's still not practicing. And then the Bengals, I forget who they play. Or no, they're on a bye.
Yeah, they're on a bye. I had to take out some players out of my fantasy team because of that.
Yeah. Yep. Got to readjust, man. Got to readjust. You're still in it, Daniel. You're still in it.
I know. It just sucks because like I'll have like a couple players do really well, and I'm like, all right, I got somebody. Yeah. Like DJ Moore. He did well for 2 weeks for me, and then just stunk it up. But then his quarterback got out. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah. Thank you for joining me. Do you have any final words for everybody? Let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, guys. Always good to see you guys in the chat. Shout out to each and every one of you who have commented, who have put their thoughts out there. Always want you guys to do that. Give your opinions, whether you agree or disagree with us. It doesn't matter. We appreciate what you guys say. And we're all on the same team, guys. We all want the Steelers to do well. We all want them to be in the best position possible. Might not agree on every single thing, but you know what? It's okay. It's okay at the end of the day, guys. So my channel's right there. You guys can follow me there. Our next show will probably be next week. Daniel and I have been kind of trying to make it Wednesday every week, just because recently, like, just sometimes like scheduling stuff's kind of been difficult and we can't always do it Saturday. So we figured Wednesday's probably the best day. We can talk about the previous game and the following game. So it'll be on my channel next week, guys, but always good to see you guys, your thoughts, and always your guys' support. Always good to see you guys in the chat. Thank you.
100%. Thank you guys. If you're still here, not subscribed, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, hit a like, do the whole thing. Get this into the algorithm. We appreciate you all. Hit the like, guys. Steelers will score 30 points. Yeah. If they do, you got to keep doing that every week. Yep, that's going to be a weekly thing. It's a weekly thing. That being said, man, we're out. Peace.